Chandler working off of that jab early. Oh! Knocked down for Oliveira now! Now Chandler retrieves it! Now Chandler is down! Charles Oliveira! Lightweight champion! Yet another finish in the UFC.
That's all he needs. One mistake, and that's it. You're going home early.
A name that resonates through the halls of combat sports as a testament to the sheer brilliance of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Esteemed and celebrated as one of the most formidable warriors to ever grace the octagon. His journey is not just about victories and defeats. It's a saga of indomitable spirit and resilience. He is Charles "Do Bronx" Oliveira.
Here's where he's got it. That's tight. That is, he's on the round the back of the head. Tamer with the Hail Mary, but look out, submission.
Let's explore the incredible story of this Brazilian former UFC champion, rising out of the slums of Sao Paulo to stardom in MMA. Born in the favela of Vicente de Carvalho, in the town of Guarujá, Sao Paulo, Brazil, on the 17th of October, 1989. Charles Oliveira faced numerous hardships growing up in a violent neighborhood and having parents who worked multiple jobs to barely pay the bills. Oliveira had to look out for himself. At the tender age of 7, he faced the challenge of being diagnosed with a heart murmur and rheumatic fever, which prompted the doctor to advise against engaging in sports, risking the possibility of paralysis of his lower limbs. Charles's parents, however, were undeterred, allowing him to take part in sports, and within that support, he found his calling in BJJ and MMA. Introduced to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the age of 12, Oliveira found himself at a gym where his trainer, Roger Coelho, offered complimentary classes to those with limited financial means. With unwavering dedication, Charles Oliveira swiftly rose through the ranks, becoming Sao Paulo's champion within a couple of months of jiu-jitsu training. He would continue his impressive wins by amassing 16 medals in 2006. By 2007, he began shifting his drive and hunger towards the realm of MMA, and in doing so, started off with an astonishing 12-0 record in numerous regional promotions around Brazil. Regarded as one of the top Brazilian talents in 2010 to watch out for, it was only a matter of time before the UFC signed a contract with Charles. He debuted against Darren Elkins in a fight where Do Bronx put the world on notice with his smooth submission skills.
Oh, it's done. Wow! It is all!
This earned him the Submission of the Night award.
Armbar, Charles "The Bronx" Oliveira.
Oliveira would pick up a second consecutive Submission of the Night award in his next fight over Efrain Escudero, submitting him with another rear naked choke in the third. His next trip to the octagon against Jim Miller at UFC 124 wasn't as smooth. The fight began with both men gauging each other with leg kicks and takedown attempts. Eventually, the two grappling aces would go to the ground, with Oliveira making the first crucial mistake, leading to a knee bar by Miller. This marked the first loss in Oliveira's MMA career. Looking to bounce back, Charles would face Nick Lentz as his next opponent. Lentz tried to take control of the bout right from the start, with Oliveira countering using up kicks. In the most unfortunate of events, the Brazilian landed an illegal knee, breaking Lentz's eye socket, which went unnoticed by the referee. He pounced on a disoriented Nick afterwards and submitted him with a rear naked choke.
Listen to the crowd boo, though. The crowd, very knowledgeable. They are correct.
Yeah. The Bronx Oliveira.
Charles Oliveira.
The Pennsylvania State Athletic Commission would reverse the outcome later on, declaring it a no contest. Charles Oliveira then replaced an injured Paul Taylor to face Donald the Cowboy Cerrone. In what may have been an ill-advised choice stepping in on short notice, Charles was unable to take the fight to the ground, and Cerrone laid on a good old-fashioned beatdown,
Boy Cerrone.
finishing him by TKO in the first. Suffering his first knockout came as a shock to everyone, especially his coach. As a result, Do Bronx decided to test his mettle at featherweight. He impressed fans with a couple victories over Eric Wisely and Jonathan Brookins, making both of them submit to different techniques in his sickening arsenal. Charles's next big name was Cub Swanson. He got off to a flying start, but was soon picked apart. Bearing similarity to the fight with Cerrone, Oliveira succumbed to strikes in the first round.
And they put people to sleep.
Yep. And then we had in fights.
As we did. Body there by Cub. Good left hook to over the top. Over the top.
And he's hurt.
Yeah, he's done.
And it is all over.
He's done.
Cub
Swanson!
together.
With a chance at redemption, UFC 162 matched Charles Oliveira up against a former lightweight champion in Frankie Edgar. Edgar dominated the first, with Oliveira barely managing to mount any sustained offense. The momentum carried on in the second, where Frankie rattled the Brazilian with his boxing. Charles would attempt a guillotine choke in the third, but couldn't finish it and ended up on the ground. Frankie Edgar would get the decision, and Do Bronx would have to stomach a second consecutive defeat.
Frankie the Edgar Edgar!
However, what set this 23-year-old technical genius apart was his will, his grit, and his determination to return stronger and better. The next year and a half saw Oliveira build himself back up with a 4-fight win streak, bagging Performance of the Night bonuses in 3 of them, and earning the coveted Submission of the Year award with an Anaconda choke against Hatsuhioki. The back-and-forth journey Oliveira had till now culminated in a title elimination bout at a UFC Fight Night against one of the most vicious strikers in the game, Max Holloway. The stakes couldn't be higher. The reality, though, proved to be the lowest for Oliveira. Struggling to cope with Holloway's relentless onslaught, the match came to a shocking halt when Charles stumbled to the mat, gripping his neck. The win counted as a TKO for Holloway, and we would find out later on that Charles Oliveira had suffered an esophagus injury, citing a sparring session 20 days prior to the fight. The MMA world had all kinds of remarks for him, spotlighting him as a quitter, someone who always failed when it mattered most, a serial choker. 4 months later, Oliveira came back with a win over Miles Jury via guillotine choke.
The hands. He's got the hands connected. Jury's in all sorts of trouble.
Mission Charles Do Bronx Oliveira.
But his bad omen continued, going 1-3 over his following 4 bouts, including losses to Pettis, Lamas, and Paul Felder. Do Bronx was beaten and battered, but little was he aware that his life was going to turn around. He decided to change gyms with the same coach, to further develop his striking game, and it did wonders for the Brazilian, who entered his prime, going on a breathtaking rampage in the lightweight division. He fought Clay Guida and Christos Giagos, making both of them submit, giving him the most wins by submission in UFC history with 11. The Brazilian standout then got his rematch with Jim Miller in December 2018. A little over a minute in, Charles latched on to a chokehold, squeezing ruthlessly like a boa constrictor to get the win.
Charles Oliveira does it again!
Wow. And he had already broken the record.
Charles Do Bronx Oliveira!
His streak continued with victories against formidable opponents like David Tamer, Jared Gordon, Kevin Lee, and Tony Ferguson, to name a few. Charles Oliveira had now established himself at the pinnacle of the lightweight division. The UFC belt was vacant, and the stars aligned for the Brazilian as it was his turn. Oliveira versus Chandler was set for UFC 262. The first round saw Oliveira drop and control Chandler like second nature, but Chandler rallied with heavy shots of his own, making for a competitive first round. In a striking turn of events, Oliveira connected a laser on Chandler in the second, and it was all curtains for the American.
Now Chandler is down! He's down! Charles Oliveira is the undisputed and new undisputed.
Oliveira got to taste UFC gold and became the lightweight champion. Charles Oliveira's first defense came against Dustin the Diamond Poirier. A fight for the ages, a battle of bewilderment. The two titans clashed, going toe-to-toe in the first round, with Oliveira looking to counter Poirier's powerful striking. The second round swung in Charles' favor, as he used his grappling to threaten Poirier from different positions, but the Diamond held his ground to force the bout into a third round. Sensing the momentum on his side, the Brazilian pounced on the back of Poirier a minute into the third, and slid in a rear naked choke for his first successful title defense, and a performance of the night bonus.
Still the undisputed UFC.
The second title defense came against an equally fierce opponent in Justin Gaethje. Unfortunately, in a controversial dilemma, Charles Oliveira was stripped of the title due to missing weight by half a pound, and now had to fight to retain the rights of challenging for the vacant title. Gaethje and Oliveira threw absolute bombs at each other, hurting one another with leg kicks, knees, and heavy hands. It wasn't until Do Bronx knocked Justin down that it was the beginning of the end. Quickly capitalizing on a downed opponent, his relentless pursuit of a submission ended up successful, as the Brazilian locked on a rear naked choke that left Gaethje no choice but to tap. This victory pushed Oliveira's UFC record for most submissions to 16. UFC 280 arrived and promised an exciting spectacle for MMA fans, as Charles Oliveira went head-to-head with Islam Makhachev. The first round was largely spent on the ground, with the fighters assessing each other's wrestling and jiu-jitsu. Makhachev would be the first to take advantage and lock in an arm triangle, forcing Do Bronx to tap out.
And new undisputed.
Failing to stay the champ, Oliveira moved on to face a streaking Beneil Dariush, and boy, did he remind everyone just how much of a killer he is. Charles' TKO win extended his UFC record for most finishes to 20. Charles Oliveira has proven himself as one of the most complete fighters in UFC history, certainly carrying the track record along with it. He faces a fighter who took Makhachev to his limits, and is looking for a title shot himself in Arman Tsarukyan, who is no stranger to ruthless striking and raw dominance. Whenever Do Bronx can impose his will and put everything together, he's a force to be reckoned with. Will he pass this next test, or will we see a new lightweight title contender emerge? Stay tuned to find out at UFC 300. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Until next time, take care, and thanks for watching.